Hey, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we are going to need to address the fact that we have had a good past couple years with Insomniac Marvel games, Spider-Man and then Spider-Man and then Spider-Man, and I don't think that quality is going to fade anytime soon. We have Wolverine on the way, which I'm pretty sure Insomniac just confirmed it's going to be in the same universe as Spider-Man, and I'm pretty sure I heard some whispers about a Daredevil game potentially coming. I don't know how real that is, which again would be cool. So I think we have a bright future ahead for this whole universe, which, you know, it just makes me really excited for the future. So I just thought this would be a fun video to do while, you know, the hype around Spider-Man 2 is still semi-fresh. So for this video, I just wanted to list 10 characters or teams from Marvel that I think should get their own Insomniac games. So these aren't all going to be Insomniac Spider-Man style games. You know, there are a couple on this list that'll have alternate styles to them, and I'll make sure to explain that when we get to them. But yeah, alright, so the first one up, number 10, Shang-Chi high difficulty martial arts game. I think that would be an amazing character to focus on for a fresh style of game that still gives us a good sense of combat, you know, fresh off the heels of something like Spider-Man or Daredevil if they are actually doing that. I think that would be really cool. We've had such a good past couple years for games starring Asian characters, you know, Ghost of Tsushima and things like Sifu, and also Shang-Chi's recent cinematic debut very recently. So I think it's time. Honestly, it's past time, but I think it's time now. I think that would be so cool. I think there's so much you could do with that, that in ways that could be similar to what we have with Spider-Man, but also so different and so unique, you know. And you could go super grounded, you could go super martial artsy, or you could go, you know, in the direction that the MCU with it, which was a little more fantastical, a little more sci-fi, you know, more extravagant. Either way, I think it's really cool. I think they could do a blend of both. There's a lot that they could do, and the idea of it just really excites me. So that's number 10. Shang-Chi, I think, would be a great character for this. Alright, then in the number 9 spot, we have Ant-Man. I think this would be good for a very light-hearted exploration adventure game. There's so much that you could do if you want to go MCU inspired and go with Scott Lang and like do something with the quantum realm. I think there's tons of potential for that, especially if we're going for a light-hearted story. That could just shine as a game. That could be so interesting and so fun and so colorful. There are so many possibilities for that. But also, if you want to not go super close to the MCU, you want to go more for the comics, you could do an Ant-Man and Wasp, Hank Pym, Janet Van Dyne. That also would be really cool if you wanted to maybe not do the quantum realm and just like shrink down to size and like run around the real world at a smaller size and do a game from that perspective. Something like grounded in the Marvel universe, that'd be so cool. There's so many possibilities when it comes to Ant-Man, so many story options, so many different routes you could take. I think that would be so cool, so unique, and it's probably not going to happen with any other character, obviously, so I would say you should run with it. I think that's a cool idea. Ant-Man is number 9. Alright, then number 8, we have Jessica Jones in a Telltale style game. So this is less Insomniac and more Telltale inspired. And yes, I'm blatantly ripping off Wolf Among Us for the inspiration of this game, but I think it would work so well. Can you imagine, whether we're taking from the Netflix show or taking from just the Alias comics in general? I think there are a lot of different, obviously you could do a cool mystery with that. Telltale has been great with that, especially with Wolf Among Us, but also I think the Netflix show did an amazing job of setting up these mysteries too, even in some of the later seasons. It's so enjoyable. She's such a great character. She would be so good for a game. You know, I think just a good Marvel mystery game would be so solid, so fun, especially in that Telltale style. You know, it wouldn't leave much room, you know, in terms of gameplay, because that's just how it is, you know, but maybe you could do a mix of Insomniac and Telltale style to where you can get a good blend of both. I just think it would be so cool, and I can't get the idea out of my mind with that Telltale, you know, colorization and the art style and Jessica Jones and how fitting she would be for that. I think that would be really cool. A more grounded, like detective type story, you know, huge divergence from the games we have now and the games that are seemingly coming, but I think that's what makes it cool and that's what excites me about it. So that's my number 8. Alright, then in the number 7 spot, we have Heroes for Hire. I think Luke and Iron Fist would be so cool as a dynamic duo in a game together, in a Way Out type co-op game. You know, you switch between Luke and Iron Fist, I guess kind of in the same way you would Peter and Miles too. I guess I didn't really realize how similar that is, but yeah, that's essentially what my inspiration was for that. It was A Way Out, and I think that would work very well with them. You know, a grounded version of it where they're just kind of patrolling the neighborhoods, they're they're set on a job, they're hired for a job, and they're looking for suspects or villains or whatever the hell. Maybe they, they're sent on a lead, a missing person, and then they're on the trail of more common low-level criminals, and then just when they think that they've found where this person may be hiding out at, they realize they've stumbled on a bigger plot with a lot of villains, and they both have to work together to, take care of it and figure it out. I think that would be so cool. You would get different abilities. Considering it's just two of them, I feel like you could dedicate enough time and budget to both of them to figure out something good. I think the idea is really interesting. I think, this is a duo that we need to see on screen more. They don't work as well on their own. I think they work so well together, and it's a shame that we don't see more of it. I think they would be perfect for a game, different move sets, different upgradable abilities. I think there's so much potential there, and they should do it. So that's my number 7. Alright, then in my number 6 spot, I have a Black Widow Hitman stealth type game, maybe where she's on her solo missions out in Russia, just doing her Black Widow thing. Maybe we see a story of her going from assassin to hero or anti-hero or something like that, where she's deep undercover, super high stakes, maybe not even any other super villains or superheroes or anything like that. It's just a straight spy game. I think that would be really, really cool. I think Black Widow needs the spotlight in a proper way, because her movie just did not do it for me, and it wasn't even a Black Widow movie. It was a, Black Widow assassin family movie, and it just didn't, it's just not, we need a hardcore Black Widow thing where she just gets to go all out, and I think a video game where we get to control that, it's just, rated M type shit. I think that would be so cool. I don't even think there's much that needs to be said, besides that. I just think that would work so well for Black Widow. That would be such an interesting game. Maybe, maybe as an alternative Hawkeye, but I think Black Widow would be really, really cool. Alright, then in the number 5 spot, we have Thanos for a space adventure game. I think with the Insomniac style set in space, that would probably be the coolest thing ever. To, focus on Marvel Cosmic a little bit more, because going off what we have right now, we have Spider-Man, the other Spider-Man, we have Spider-Man 2, we have Wolverine on the way, and then potentially Daredevil. Again, I don't know if that's real, but yeah, for the most part, we have very grounded games, very grounded characters, street level. I would like to kind of branch out with some of these and go Marvel Cosmic, do some stuff out in space, and I think a Thanos game, a game centered around Thanos, would be the coolest thing ever. And don't tell me it couldn't work, because Infinity War was Thanos' story. That was his movie, so we know it can. But I think less sympathetic Thanos, less MCU inspired Thanos, and more comic Thanos, the actual Mad Titan, and getting to just see Thanos be evil for the sake of being evil, just being a piece of garbage for the sake of being a piece of garbage. I think that would be so cool. That would make for such a great game. And, constantly playing as superheroes and good guys and, characters that are moral. I think this would be such a good flip to play as the villain for once. We got a lot of superhero games, but I can't recall one where we got to play as the villain and just thrive being evil. I think that would be so cool, just like taking out, different space factions and stuff like that, different armies, set in the Marvel universe, maybe go up against the Skrulls, the Kree, others. I think if they took a lot of inspiration from Donny Cates' run, from I think 2016, there's a lot that they could pull from there, in terms of art style and story and just the approach to his character. In my opinion, there's a lot that they could do there. There's a lot of potential, the possibilities excite me, and I just think it would be cool, to play as the villain for once. So that is my number 5. Thanos, I think, would be perfect. Alright, then next up in the number 4 spot, we have a Hulk game. I think that would be so cool. Just getting to see Hulk go all out and getting to play as him. I think there are certain things that the Square Enix Avengers game, I think they did right with his character, but he felt so sluggish to play as that I never play as him. So I think there's a lot of fine tuning that can be done with, from there. There's some good bare bone basic stuff in terms of movement and gameplay and, just abilities, but I think that can be, there's just so much more that they could do with that. And, in terms of character, they could do stuff that we never got to see in the MCU that we'll probably never see in live action. There's so much that people are missing out on when it comes to Hulk. There's so much character work and growth, and Joe Fixit, I would love to see Joe Fixit just once in an adaptation. I just would love it just once. Or the other Hulk identities, or him going up against AIM as an organization, or you could go full psychological horror and do an Immortal Hulk thing, because I know that really revamped Hulk's popularity. Maybe God of War inspired in terms of like the way they approach story, you know, it's like a whole epic and a lot of great action and a lot of great character work. And, you know, getting to see him go up against these other huge, strong titans and, you know, super strong villains, you know, even just basic villains like the leader, maybe even Wolverine, I don't know, you know, have a little bit of a crossover there. I think that would be really cool. There's just so much Hulk material there that has never been explored in any other adaptation. Everyone always just wants to focus on Maestro. Everyone always just wants to focus on Planet Hulk, and there's so much more. Alright, then in the number 3 spot, we have Spider-Woman. I think a Spider-Woman game set after Secret Invasion would be the coolest stealth-based game ever. And, you know, when it comes to Marvel, there's a ton of female characters that can lead an entire game, so I'm trying to put them all on the list, because they don't usually get the spotlight, and every time they're going to be outshined by the Spider-Mans and the Wolverines and the Captain Americas, so I want to make sure there's enough of them on this list, not for the sake of representation, but because there truly are a lot of really cool Marvel female characters. So I want to make sure to express that by having them on the list and having them present. And, you know, I think with Spider-Woman's role in the Secret Invasion story, which, if you're not familiar, she was basically Rhodey in the comics. You know, what they did with Rhodey in the MCU is basically what she was impersonated by the Skrull Queen. You know, she was doing a lot of whispering in other people's ears and, you know, just manipulating behind the scenes, playing triple agent, and it was really, really interesting. So I would love to see, you know, a game based off of the 2009 run that Spider-Woman got after she got, you know, her autonomy back and she was back in her own role, you know, after she had been impersonated and she was mentally struggling with that and, you know, tracking down all the leftover Skrulls that were on Earth still. And, you know, I think that would make for a really interesting stealth game. And also her power and her move sets, you know, could be so cool based on who Spider-Woman is and what she can do. And, you know, Sony, I'm pretty sure, owns the rights to the character. So, you know, especially with the popularity of the Spider-Man games, you know, I think that's definitely something they can and should do. There might be a rights issue when it comes to the Skrulls. I'm not really sure how that would work, but, you know, just something like that where Spider-Woman gets to be a spy. You know, conceptually, it's pretty similar to the Black Widow game that I listed, but still, I think each of them could be unique in their own ways, and I just think they'd be really cool. Alright, then in the number 2 spot, we have a Punisher game. Now, I know the video game industry is completely oversaturated with shooters, so to have a company like Marvel making video games, making quality video games, you know, a lot of people would consider it a waste to just make another shooter, but I think that's a reason why a Punisher game could do so well, because people would fit right in. You know, you have your Battlefield, Halo, Call of Duty fans, you know, Fortnite, PUBG, all this stuff, you know, people would love to just get to go crazy as the Punisher. And, you know, for anyone that has ever read a Punisher comic, you know, they just, especially with the Punisher Max comics, they just love to go all out, they love to go crazy, so it's absolutely something that you could do. No limits, no rules, no grounded in reality, just go ape shit. You know, the first thing that comes to mind for me, you know, for the enemies, the opponents that Punisher would face in this game, you know, I think Hydra would be a good one. You know, just Punisher versus the entirety of Hydra would be one of the coolest things ever, you know, based on the 2018 series where he just got in a tank, I think, and just ran over soldiers and just went crazy. He went to war with Zemo, you know, just him, one-man army against the rest. I think a game full of that would be the funniest, most ridiculous shit ever. If you just did like a normal, mundane Punisher game where he's just, you know, it's grounded and he's just in the city shooting at people, you know, then it might be a little bit of a waste, you know, to just make another shooter game. But if you go all out, you embrace the ridiculous nature of Punisher comics, you embrace all the different types of enemies that you could have in a Marvel Punisher game, you could go absolutely crazy with an idea like that, and the sky is the limit. You know, you don't need much, just make it fun, give him as many guns as possible, don't try and limit it, don't try and make it, you know, PG-13, don't make it, you know, appeal to kids or anything, and, you know, basically do in that game what you couldn't in other games, you know what I mean? Like, go crazy in Punisher because you can't go crazy in Spider-Man, essentially. You know, just something like that that is set in the Marvel Universe and embraces the Marvel Universe in that it is so limitless, that would be really, really cool. Alright, then last but not least, in the number 1 spot, my absolute favorite idea for an Insomniac game would be a Fantastic Four game. We've already had several Fantastic Four teases and hints in the Spider-Man games, so I think, you know, it's about time they do it. You know, if they can do an X-Men character like Wolverine, they can do the Fantastic Four, and I think, you know, with the switching between Miles and Peter in the story mode of Spider-Man 2 could absolutely work for a Fantastic Four game, you know, going between each. You know, it would take a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of, fleshing out the movement and the combat of each member, but imagine how cool that would be. I can't even remember the last time we've had a Fantastic Four game. I like, even for a movie adaptation, I can't remember when that happened. So I think maybe something like the Fantastic Four Lost in the Negative Zone type of thing, traveling through and exploring the negative zone, but getting to do that yourself as the player, an exploration adventure game while they're going up against someone like Annihilus. That would be so cool. And, it would be a good way to ensure that it's not just the same thing, the same story as the movies where they're just fighting Doctor Doom again. It would ensure that they have another enemy, lots of enemy types. There's lots of, they could go the solid comic route and try and adapt as closely as possible and make it as similar to the negative zone as possible with the comics, or they could just go all out, take whatever idea they could, make as many enemies as they want, go as abstract with it as they want, go as colorful as they want, and their powers, imagine what the gameplay would be like, and just having them split up, and then you bounce to all these different areas in the story when you switch to a new player, and they're just trying to conquer this problem, lost in this new dimension, split up, trying to solve it from all sides. I just think that would be such a cool game, and I think it's the one that has the most potential in my opinion, and I just think it would be really cool. We need a Fantastic Four game so badly. But yeah guys, that is my list. Those are the top 10 Marvel games that we need, some of which are Insomniac inspired, some of them aren't quite so much, but either way I think they would all be really cool. But that is just my list of characters and teams that I think should get a game. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Who are some characters that you would want to see a game for, whether it's made by Insomniac or maybe another development studio? I'm sure everyone has lots of good ideas, so make sure to drop them down in the comments below. Check out my other videos here, like the video if you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next